there, my name's Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books. Today is Tuesday, so we're here with a Tag Tuesday video and we're going to do something a little bit different. I think I'm going to start trying to switch up my videos a little more. I generally shoot my videos at home. I tend to be like either in my bedroom or in my living room where most of my books are. And that makes sense when I'm talking about books. I'm not gonna haul 20 or 30 books around with me, but I do get out in the city a lot. I tend to come out for like coffee and pastries or go out for lunch here and there, go to park, hike, things like that. And I thought that it might be fun to switch up the locations once in a while. So today I am shooting my video from one of my favorite bakeries here in Las Vegas. This is Cafe Brez. And this is a Parisian French cafe. The owner, who is walking around in the back here, she is actually from Paris herself. And in my opinion, having been to Paris 3 times and being a chef for a living, they offer some of the best French pastries that I've had outside of France. So this is generally a weekly meeting spot for me and my boss. On Tuesdays we meet. I work as a chef and we're in the meal prep industry. So every Tuesday we meet to plan our week and have breakfast and chat about what went well the week before, what's going, to need to be changed the week coming up, specials, things like that. And so this is our location where we meet. We come every Tuesday, have pastry and coffee or breakfast or whatever. And I thought, this is such a cute location. The pastries are so amazing. This is such a great little business. Why not shoot a video here and show you a little bit about my city and, let you in on my life a little bit. So we're gonna shoot the Tag Tuesday video from here. And afterwards, I'll show you some of the stuff that I ate and a little bit of their pastries and things like that, just because why go to a French bakery if you're not going to see the pastries? So that being said, let's go ahead and get into the tag. Today's Tag Tuesday video is called the Anti-TBR Tag, and it was created by Nicole and her books. Link will be down in the description, so make sure you go check out the original video. I've seen a couple of versions of this throughout YouTube popping up here and there, and I have to say I found it really interesting because it's a lot about what you don't like and not so much about what you do like. I know that I have personally talked a lot, very extensively, about what I like on my channel, so I thought this would be a fun way to switch it up and kind of talk about some of the things I'm not so excited about in terms of reading. So let's go ahead and get into prompt number 1. Prompt number 1, a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. So this particular author is probably going to get some shade throughout this video, and this is no shade against anyone that likes that author. This is obviously my personal opinion, but a book that everyone loves that I have no interest in reading is probably Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I am not really into glamorizing dysfunctional relationships. Having seen friends that have been abused, having seen people, dealing with these toxic relationships and things like that, I don't really love when books tend to make that seem romantic. I think we already have enough trouble romanticizing the bad boy image and the, women are supposed to fix broken men image. And so when really popular authors and really popular books make that seem even sexier, for me, it just icks me out. I don't like it. So for now, I think Ugly Love is probably at the top of books that I don't really have any interest in. Number 2, a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. Oof. There is a couple of them. I don't really like J.D. Salinger. I could not stand A Catcher in the Rye. I don't even know if he has any other books besides that one, but I will probably never read any of his work ever again. It just was not my cup of tea. That book was so whiny to me and obnoxious, and the main character just comes off as this spoiled, completely self-absorbed, oblivious person, and it just, for me, was the most annoying, frustrating book ever. So I definitely have no interest in reading anything from him ever. I also do not really care for Kurt Vonnegut. I know he's another really popular classic author. I know, shock, but his style is just not my cup of tea. I do think that he has some interesting concepts in his books. I've tried reading a couple of them, definitely through school and just in adult life. I've tried reading a few of his books and they just aren't my vibe. I don't love the way that he writes. To me, it feels very chaotic and hard to get into a rhythm with, and it's just, again, I admire the creativeness in the concepts that he comes up with, but he's just another one of those authors where he's not really my thing. And then a third classic author that I also struggle with is Margaret Atwood. I have told you before on this channel that I really like The Handmaid's Tale, and that's true. I did really enjoy The Handmaid's Tale, and I have The Testaments, which I'm going to be reading as well because it's the follow-up to The Handmaid's Tale, but I've read some of her other books, or attempted, and DNF'd. every single one of them. I could not stand Orcs and Crake. There's other books that I was just like, ugh. Same thing, she has kind of a choppy, weird, dry writing style that just I don't tend to care for. Again, I think she's a talented author. I think her books are very creative. She comes up with very cool concepts. I admire her talent, but in terms of writing style, it's just not my thing. So those are probably my three. J.D. Salinger, Kurt Vonnegut, and Margaret Atwood would probably be my three classic authors who I just don't really read that much of or don't have an interest in reading. Number 3, a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. Oof, I feel like there's a lot of places I could go with this. I'm gonna probably refer back to prompt number 1 and talk about Colleen Hoover. So I know she's all the rage on social media. I see pictures of her books constantly on Bookstagram. People raving about how they're the best thing they've ever read, how moving they are, etc., etc. I recently decided to try to see what the deal with Colleen Hoover was, and I picked up It Ends With Us. Now, perhaps I picked up the wrong book. That's entirely possible, but the whole thing was like one red flag after another. I'm reading this character who's clearly getting into a toxic and abusive relationship and like a bull charging headfirst into red flags. And for me, it's just not enjoyable. I've personally had some experience with toxic relationships, or not the healthiest relationships, although I've never been physically abused or like had physical violence. I do know what it's like to be around narcissistic people. I do know what it's like to be gaslit and manipulated, and I don't think that that's something sexy. And I was really put off by how there's this push to make this very toxic character sexy, and this relationship where these two people are clearly unhealthy and clearly bad for each other into this like star-crossed lovers romance. It just, for me, is so icky. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't write about toxic relationships or abuse. Those things do exist in the world, and it is realistic to talk about them. But I think when we talk about them, it's important to keep in mind what we're talking about. Like, you wouldn't glamorize a book about a minor adult relationship, right? Like, that's not sexy, that's wrong. And I feel like writing about a topic like that, like, you want to make it clear that it's not a good thing instead of trying to make it look like it is a good thing. And that's my main frustration so far with Colleen Hoover. I do have the book Verity, and I've heard that that's more of a horror than a romance, and that's really well written. So I'm going to give that one a shot because I think it's a little bit different. But I'm probably going to skip a lot of her other books. Ugly Love, I don't even remember. There's so many of them. November 9th, Heartbones, all these different books that have been coming out. I think probably for me, she's just not going to be the type of author that I want to read. I can't support somebody that thinks it's acceptable to glamorize toxic relationships. The lemon tarts here are so fantastic. One of the best that I've had anywhere, period. Not just outside of France, but period. They're so creamy, just the right amount of citrus. They have a nice sweet meringue on top. Perfection. All right, so back into the books. Number 4, an author you've read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. So getting outside of what we've already talked about, I think that Sarah J. Maas is probably one of those authors as well. She is wildly popular right now. There's the ACOTAR series, the Throne of Glass series. She just started Crescent City. Wildly popular. Same kind of thing, not so much my style. I did recently try the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I was talked into joining a book club group that's reading the 3 books and discussing. So I am going to at least read the full 3 books in the series, give it a shot. But so far, I kind of feel like her writing style is not my vibe. And it's possible other series of hers may be better. At some point, maybe I'll give them a try. But it's the same kind of thing. We've got fantasy, which I love, but then we've got the romance that's not very healthy. I'm just getting through book 1, and I can already tell that there's a lot of toxicity being set up. I feel like there's issues with the main character love bombing, or not the main character, but the main romantic figure love bombing the main character, presenting everything as like amazing and wonderful, and they're just so head over heels and love at first sight. And honestly, I feel like that the world doesn't operate that way, and I can kind of see that there's a toxic pattern forming here. I also feel like in some ways the writing style is a little young for me. I know that there's lots of people that love it, lots of adults that really love it, but I do feel like it has a distinct younger YA focus. And I read plenty of YA. I'm not crapping on that genre, but I do think sometimes, occasionally, I get into a YA book where I feel like it was just written for somebody slightly younger than I am. And to be honest, there's some cringy descriptions of things for me that just I can't read with a straight face. Like, she compares one of the main love interests' erection to steel wrapped with velvet or something like that, velvet wrapped steel. And like, I almost spit my drink out when I read that. Like, to me, that's not sexy. That's like hysterical. I don't know. I don't mind smut, but I think that there's ways to write these kinds of scenes without making people laugh. And I don't know. I feel like if I'm like mid-sex scene laughing at a description, that's probably not the most effective sex scene. Probably just not my cup of tea. I'm super happy for everyone that loves her writing and is like being moved by it. Again, I appreciate whatever you like to read, you read and you enjoy it, and don't feel shame for enjoying it. But for me, I probably won't be reading too much more of Sarah J. Maas. Number 5, a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. So I know I've mentioned this about 100 times on this channel, but I'm just not that big of a romance reader. I don't mind romance as a subplot in a story. Like if I'm reading an epic fantasy and there's a romance between two characters, or contemporary fiction where romance plays a part of it. But for me, when the whole story is romance, that's kind of when I tend to like be like, not my thing so much. I will say that this month in March coming up, I will be doing an all romance or mostly romance month, because I do like to test this out once in a while. Like when I get into a rut where I don't like a genre, I do like to challenge myself and see if it's just the specific genre or the specific author. I haven't really read that many romances anyway, so maybe like my context is outdated, and I just, I think it's good to push ourselves and grow once in a while. So I've asked my friends who are heavy duty romance readers to give me some of their best recommendations, and I think I've come up with a pretty good list, a pretty comprehensive list of romances to read in March and see, if it's true, if I still don't like romance that much. Another genre that I do like, but I'm very particular about, is science fiction. I love a good science fiction series, a good science fiction book, but I'm very particular about it. I don't love all science fiction. It's a weird thing. I actually find that I like less science fiction than I dislike more science fiction than I actually like. But when I do like science fiction, I feel really connected with it, really enjoy it. I did grow up watching Star Trek, all of the different versions of it. So I do love sci-fi as a subject. I just, like I said, I pick and choose on that. So that would be probably the second genre that I don't read as much of. Number 6, a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library and read. I don't think that I have anything like this. Generally speaking, nope, I lied. I forgot. The book No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. I did a 5-minute book review of it up here if you want to hear in great detail my problems with the book. But I picked that up thinking it was going to be great. I was recommended it by one of the people working at the bookstore. It was like supposed to be cutting edge and a really scathing critique of social media. It ended up being more like reading memes, but without the pictures. So like imagine just the text of a meme. And I just couldn't get into it. I tried it 3 separate times over a course of like 6 months. And each time I felt the same way. I felt disconnected. I felt frustrated, confused, so I put the book down, and after the 3rd time I decided to go ahead and unhaul it. So I donated it to my mom's little free library, I believe, and yeah. Other than that though, generally when I bring a book home, especially a purchase book, I make the best effort to read it. And it's pretty rare that I actually DNF a book. Usually, like I said, if I'm not feeling a book, I'll read it, put it down, and pick it up at another point. Prompt 7, a series you have no interest in reading or a series you started and have DNF'd. I don't know, it's hard for me once I get into series. I really want to complete them because I like to know where they're going. I think one of the series that I've recently started that I may or may not continue would be The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I read book 1, and for me it just kind of felt quite a bit like a rip-off of The Hunger Games. There was a lot of elements that I found very similar to The Hunger Games. I found, the general surliness of the female character and her toughness, and the fact that she has to do illegal things to support her family within inside of this dystopian environment. Her family is all basically useless, and she's like their sole provider, basically. Be forced into this wealthy, posh environment that she doesn't know how she fits into. And everybody's like, you know, a potential threat, and she's constantly on edge. She has to look beautiful, and it just all kind of reminded me of Katniss in the Capitol, but kind of extended. And then there's, you know, this like gladiator type situation at the end, which I won't go into too much because of spoilers, but it reminded me quite a bit of the arena and the Hunger Games and the relationship with Peeta and all this different stuff. So for me, when a book reminds me viscerally of another book, I think I'm disappointed by it. I understand that all authors take inspiration from other authors. Like, very rarely are there concepts that are completely new. But I think the thing about a good author is taking a concept from somewhere else and making it your own. So like, I know a lot of people said that the Hunger Games reminded them of Battle Royale. I've seen Battle Royale and I'm familiar with the storyline, and while yes, there are inherent similarities, I feel like they're two separate stories. Just like I feel like many of the other dystopian fics that followed the Hunger Games have been their own stories as well. I just feel like sometimes people take a little too much, and that's kind of where I'm feeling about with the Red Queen. I have talked to a couple people that have finished the series and said that book 2 and book 3 start to go in very different directions, but we'll see. And then the other book that I read recently, where I'm not sure that I'll continue the series, is the Shatter Me series by Tarea Mafi. And the reason is because I feel like that book is just a little juvenile for me. This is another one where it's a YA, clearly a YA, but I feel like it's written for like maybe a teenager. And for me, that's just a little younger than I want to read, at least for, you know, an 8-book series. I'm not, again, crapping on anybody that likes the series. I know a lot of people have raved about it, but I got through the first book. It was okay. It wasn't anything great. I'm not really that motivated to continue to read it further. And the final question is 8. A new release you have no interest in reading. So as I mentioned in one of the previous questions, I tried out the ACOTAR series. Not loving it. It's not horrible, but it's just not for me. And if you're anywhere involving social media for books, then you know that Sarah J. Maas has the Crescent City series that's coming out. So Crescent City already came out, and the next book, The House of Sky and Breath, just dropped, I believe, yesterday, if I remember correctly, by all of the posts that I saw on social media about it. This is one book that I'm just not that interested in. I'm not that interested in Crescent City to begin with, and since I haven't read it, I'm not really interested in the second book either. I have heard great things about it. Again, I've also heard that it's quite different than her other 2 series. Maybe somewhere far down the road, I'll check it out, but I don't really have it that far on my list, and I have so many other books to read. It's like, when I have hundreds of books that I think are going to be really good reads, why waste my time reading things that I don't think I'm going to like, or that I didn't like, you know, that author's writing style and things. So when I run out of really good books that I really think I'm going to enjoy, then maybe I'll look into this Crescent City series and The House of Sky and Breath and whatnot. So that was the end of the Anti-TBR book tag, and I hope that you found it a little bit interesting. I know I talked about a lot of the same authors over and over again. I think I have 2 really distinct styles that I don't particularly care for, and that's a very dry, chaotic style of writing, and then also juvenile fantasy romance. Actually, I guess there's a third because there's toxic relationships, and that's kind of a no-go for me. I, again, don't want anyone to feel discouraged if you enjoy any of the authors that I talked about. I'm super happy for you. You know, we all have our different tastes and our different styles, and so I don't want anyone to think that I'm like tearing them down for liking anything that I mentioned. These are only my personal feelings about these books, and I'm super happy anytime anyone enjoys any book, because the point of these channels is ultimately to encourage more people to read. So finally, I think I'm going to tag 1 or 2 people today. I think I will be tagging Brandon's Bookshelf, because I know he does tags once in a while, and I think it'd be very interesting to hear him talk about the things he doesn't like, because he talks a lot about what he likes and whatnot. I also want to tag Serene Sloth. She's lovely, and I really enjoy her channel, and I'm curious to hear her answers. I've seen her talk before about books that she doesn't like, so I'm curious to hear a little more. And I'm going to go ahead and tag The Midnight Reader as well, another person that I really enjoy and love her content, and would love to see her discuss a bit of these questions as well. So if you don't already follow all 3 of them, I'm going to be tagging their channels below in the description, and you should go give them a follow. All 3 of them are very unique and interesting channels, and I enjoy their content on a regular. Finally, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, And let me know in the comments below how you like this format. Do you like seeing a video in a new location? Is it fun for you to see what's going on in my day? Or do you like it better when I do it at home? Is this too noisy having a cafe around me? You know, the whole shebang. Tell me all about it. And finally, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, the subscribe button is down here. Consider giving it a click. I do follow back other booktube channels, so if you have a channel of your own, leave me a comment and let me know, and I will make sure to come check you out, leave you some comments. Other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.